active range of motion for hip flexion. So what we're going to do first is find the greater trochanter. The fulcrum goes on that. The stationary arm goes up the midline of the trunk, and the movement arm goes down the femur to the lateral epicondyle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have him bend at the hips and bring this knee all the way up to his chest as far as he could go. There you go. Now we realign back on the greater trochanter. Alright. And what we have here is 110 degrees of hip flexion. If that can, or 111 degrees. So what we're going to do is passive range of motion for hip extension. The position of the goniometer will be the same as flexion. We're going to find the greater trochanter. And what we're going to do, put the fulcrum on that. The stationary arm goes up the midline of the trunk, and the moving arm goes down the femur to the lateral epicondyle. So now what we're going to do, I get under his leg here, try to bring him into extension, trying not to let that hip move, and we're going to realign. And what we get here, this focuses about 17 degrees of hip extension. For ankle dorsiflexion and plantar flexion ranges of motion, I would normally use a smaller goniometer, but since I could not find one, I was using the larger goniometer. So what we're going to do is active dorsiflexion range of motion. So what I want to do first is find my bony landmarks. We're going to start with the lateral malleolus and the fibular head. So the fulcrum goes on the lateral malleolus, and the stationary arm goes up in line with the fibular head. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring his foot into a neutral position. Alright. Now what I'm going to have him do is dorsiflex for me. Bring your toes up. I'm going to try to keep the movement arm in parallel with his foot right here. That looks about right. And what we have is, where is it? About 6 degrees flexion, dorsiflexion. And now we're going to do passive plantar flexion range of motion. So the landmarks are going to be the same as the dorsiflexion. Fulcrum goes on the lateral malleolus, stationary arm goes up to the fibular head, and the moving arm will be parallel with the foot, the base of the fifth. So we're going to bring him to a neutral position. Just relax, try to bring your foot up neutral. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to support here and push him into plantar flexion. And when we're here, we're going to try to realign. Alright, relax. And what we get here, it focuses, is 42 degrees of plantar flexion. Correction to what was said, the reading shows 48 degrees plantar flexion, not 42.
My name is Tariq, and I approve Paul's video.